This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we discuss all of the news in the world of sports. My name is Ben Brown. Guys, I hope you had a fantastic holiday weekend. Happy New Year. It is 2017. We are rolling right along. 2016 felt like it was just a couple of days ago. Well, it's because it was a couple of days ago. I said last week on Monday's episode that I felt like we had the best sports weekend that we had all year long. Well, I might need to rephrase that to this weekend. I realized it was split up between 2 years, so, give me a little bit of a benefit of the doubt there. But this past weekend in sports was absolutely fantastic. Friday night, Saturday, yesterday, it was great. UFC, the NBA, college football is really, really winding down here, which is unfortunate, but we are on those big BCS bowl games. We had the national championship semifinals on Saturday. Yesterday in the NFL, not too many games with playoff implications, but still some important games, some big-time storylines. Today is Black Monday, so if there's any breaking news with coaches being fired, I will be the first to update you here. We had some even, NFL is getting it's almost like Thanksgiving to me with Black Friday. We have Black Monday, we have Black Friday. It's starting earlier and earlier. The NFL started firing coaches earlier and earlier. We had Chip Kelly reportedly being out prior to Sunday's game. The Bills fired Rex Ryan last week. Mike McCoy got fired last night in San Diego. The Broncos and Gary Kubiak are going to have to try and work something out. Looks like he's going to be resigning, just some health issues, which is unfortunate, but obviously it's the proper thing to do for Kubiak, get himself healthy. Remember, he did miss a game from the sidelines this year, had to have serious migraine problems, so he will be out in Denver for a different reason, not for getting fired. And if there's any other breaking news with coaching jobs, I will always update you here on the show. But anyways, I want to start in the college landscape. I felt like this is the big weekend, including today. We have a lot of games. A Rose Bowl game today. Basically, like those traditional New Year's Bowl games are today because the NFL dominated yesterday. And Saturday was, of course, the national semifinal games. So today we have the traditional New Year's Day bowl games. We have the Rose Bowl game. The Sugar Bowl is later on in the day at night. So I'll talk about those, preview those at the end of this segment. But first, got to talk about what we experienced this weekend. So Friday, the Capital One Orange Bowl. On Friday, I took Michigan to win that game. Florida State topped them 33-32. A monstrous game from Dalvin Cook. The junior had 20 carries for 145 yards and a touchdown. He also added some in the passing game. And then he declared for the NFL draft yesterday, which, no real surprise. Dalvin Cook, according to most prospects, could be like a top 10 pick, even if depending on where teams draft, what their sort of needs are. Basically, top to board prospect-wise, he's ranked within the top 10, but we all know how running backs kind of falter in the draft because their time frame, their longevity in the league is not nearly as high as some of the other positions. So, interesting to see where Dalvin Cook goes, but you know what? I absolutely love Dalvin Cook. I think he's a complete all-purpose back, great receiving back, big and physical, has some speed to his game. He ran for over 4,000 yards in his career, a Florida State record. So, he's got a lot of tread on his tires, but I still love him. I'm going to say this. I would take Dalvin Cook over Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette kind of battled some injury issues in the past couple of years. Injured this year at LSU, injured last year at LSU. He sat out the bowl game, which was the Citrus Bowl, which LSU absolutely pounded Louisville 29-9. Lamar Jackson, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, didn't even have a touchdown in that game. So I guess we can kind of find out what happens when he plays good competition. But anyways, I'm not as big on Leonard Fournette as I am on Dalvin Cook. I love Dalvin Cook. He's a guy who's been able to stay healthy. Leonard Fournette has not. He also seems like Leonard Fournette has a little bit more of an ego to him, cares more about the name on the back of the jersey as opposed to the name on the front of the jersey. Could be a little bit of a distraction in the NFL. Who knows? But, I mean, he's a great player as well, one of the best prospects, ranked even higher than Dalvin Cook by most guys. But I actually like Dalvin Cook a lot better. I would love to have him in the NFL over Leonard Fournette. But anyways, so Florida State do win that game 33-32. DeAndre Francois, only 9 of 27 for 222 yards and 2 scores for FSU, but they do get the job done. Michigan really just couldn't really get much going. They had a pick 6 for a touchdown. They ran back a 2-point conversion. Well, they ran back a blocked extra point for 2 points. So they kind of made it close there at the end. Just kind of didn't really feel like they were in the game at most points. They were down 20-6 at one point. They just really weren't in the game, and I was kind of surprised by a Jim Harbaugh-led team that he did not really have them ready to play. They weren't really able to do much running the ball. Wilton Speight couldn't really be effective passing. So, I mean, I was really surprised. Michigan kind of disappointed in the last couple of games of the season. Really a letdown against Ohio State. They should have won that game, and then they go on to lose in the Orange Bowl. Not a good situation for Harbaugh and Michigan, but it's only second year Harbaugh's been at Michigan. Think about next year, the year after. I mean, this program is literally locked and ready and loaded for the next few years to come. And that'll take me over to the national semifinal games on Saturday. The Peach Bowl, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Alabama tops Washington 24-7. Washington actually got things started off 7-0. They did have the advantage. They scored on their first possession. Jake Browning threw a touchdown pass to Dante Pettis. But from there on out, it was all Crimson Tide. They scored the next 24 points, win 24-7. A huge game from running back Bo Scarborough, 19 carries, 180 yards, and 2 touchdowns. One of them coming in the second half on a 68-yard run. Jake Browning just kind of really was not effective. 150 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. One of those interceptions right before halftime was returned for a touchdown by Alabama. Washington just kind of seemed like what I thought they would be. They did not really look ready in this game. Young, inexperienced, this Alabama defense, with the exception of Washington's first drive, really just tore apart Washington, controlled the line of scrimmage, was able to stop the run, stop the pass. Washington, a super, super young team. I really do think Washington are going to be back here next year. Jake Browning, only a sophomore, so he will be back under center for the Dogs. I really do think Washington are a really solid team. They just ran into an absolute buzzsaw in Alabama that we've seen all year long. Alabama really been almost untouchable. Washington had the right success, the right plan. You got to try and keep the game low scoring. You got to just stay around and give yourself a chance to win late. But they kind of just fell out of it there. They couldn't really get anything going. Just didn't score for 3.5 quarters after their first possession. But they had the right mindset. You got to try and run the ball, keep the game low scoring, not let it get away from you. And they just unfortunately could not get it done. But I really do think they'll be back next year. They are a really solid team and a really, really young team. I really do like what Chris Peterson's doing at Washington. Now you move over to the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl. This is the game that I thought would honestly be a lot better of a game, a lot more competitive of a game, come down to the wire. I thought it'd be a shootout. I thought both teams would score in the 30s. Well, honestly, only one team scored in the 30s, and only one team even scored. Clemson shuts out Ohio State 31-0. Urban Meyer, his first ever shutout loss as a coach. Deshaun Watson, 259 yards, 1 passing touchdown, as well as 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground. Mike Williams led them in receiving, 6 catches for 96 yards. Good to see him back there, a good solid playmaker for Watson and the Tigers. Ohio State absolutely dominated Clemson's defense. Just blankets the Buckeyes, didn't get anything going. JT Barrett and company couldn't have any success passing nor running the ball. I was really surprised. I thought that this would be a shootout. I thought Ohio State would even win the game. Barrett threw for 127 yards and 2 interceptions. As a team, they only ran for 88 yards on 23 carries. Meanwhile, Clemson's running for over 200 yards. Wayne Gallman, 85 yards and a touchdown. I mentioned Watson with the 2 touchdowns. Clemson showed me something on Saturday that I have not seen all year long. It seems like they just wanted this more. You know what I mean? Like they were just coming out guns blazing. It seems like Watson and Clemson were that team all year long, kind of like Ohio State in my eye last year, that kind of just went along with the punches, kind of played down to their opponent, didn't really step up much, but on Saturday, they stepped up in an absolute huge way to set up for the second year in a row Alabama against Clemson in the national championship game. That game will be played a week from today, so I will wait to preview that game a week from now. But it's absolutely fantastic. We'll see if Deshaun Watson and Clemson can get some revenge on Nick Saban and the rest of the Alabama Crimson Tide last year, losing that game 45-40 in an absolute shootout fashion. That takes me to today's games. We do have games starting as early as 10 o'clock here on the West Coast, so about 3 hours from now. The Outback Bowl will feature Florida against Iowa. I'll take Florida all day. I love Florida. I love their defense. I think it'll be a low-scoring game. Both teams not too much good on the offensive side of the ball. So I'll give Florida the edge. I trust their defense more. I trust their offense a little more as well. And then we have the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic live from Jerry World AT&T Stadium. Features the other lone undefeated team with Alabama. That is number 15, Western Michigan. They will take on number 8, Wisconsin from the Big Ten. I gotta go with Wisconsin. I mean, they're from a bigger conference, bigger school, elite defense. Western Michigan are undefeated, had a great season, did get that victory over Oklahoma State early in the year when they really shouldn't have. The Hail Mary play should not have happened. But anyways, I will give the edge to Wisconsin. I mean, Western Michigan, great year, but can they really compete with a solid, big-time, elite program like Wisconsin? I really don't know. I love Wisconsin in this game. The Rose Bowl game presented by Northwestern Mutual features the USC Trojans against the Big Ten champion number 5 Penn State. USC's coming in at number 9. Hot. They're hot. They've won their last 8 games. They were 1-3 at one point. Now they sit at 9-3. Penn State 11-2. I absolutely love the Trojans in this game. Last year, it was Stanford against Iowa in the Rose Bowl game, and I thought Stanford would absolutely roll them with Christian McCaffrey and company. And that is what happened. This is going to be, in my eyes, the exact same thing, just on the USC side of the ball. I think USC are going to absolutely steamroll Penn State. I really do. Penn State's a good team. They're not a bad program. They've had a great, successful year. But I can't bet against USC, especially with how they've been playing. USC's that one team that everyone did not want to see get into the college football playoff. And really, it's their September that cost them. Losing 3 games within that first month of the season is never a good thing. That's what cost them, and that's what's keeping them out of that top 4. Because right now, you could argue that they were playing just as good as anyone in the country. And now they're going to sort of have some wantings to sort of prove some doubters wrong. Going to this game in the Rose Bowl, they're already in L.A., so it's in their backyard practically. I think they're going to just absolutely destroy Penn State. I don't have any faith in them. I think USC is big time going to win this game. And then the All-State Sugar Bowl, live from the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans, features the number 14 ranked Auburn Tigers against the number 7 ranked Oklahoma Sooners. I'll give the edge to Oklahoma. They've been on an absolute tear, 10-2. Auburn 8-4. Good defense. They've really been playing good. Gus Malzahn has always done a good job of turning that program around. I'll give the edge to the Sooners, though, playing a lot better. Baker Mayfield and D.D. Westbrook, I think, will have huge games. And I just trust them more. I trust their offense more. Auburn, a good defense, like I said, but I think Oklahoma will have success and win that game, the All-State Sugar Bowl. Bob Stoops has struggled in these BCS bowl games, but I think he should be able to get it done here. So that's going to take us into the first break of the show. After the break, be talking about the NFL. We have the playoffs set, looking at the matchups there, as well as how we got to those matchups with a few of the games yesterday. I'll take my break, and we'll talk the NFL right here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
UFC 207 was on Friday live from Las Vegas. The headliner, Amanda Nunes, defending her women's bantamweight title against the return of Ronda Rousey. And, well, it was a short-lived return, at least in this fight. Rousey only lasts 48 seconds before getting TKO'd by Nunes. This is something I honestly saw coming. I talked about it on Friday on the show. I realized Rousey has defeated Nunes before. She rear naked choked her. He choked her out earlier in her UFC career. But I just don't think Rousey's in the right mindset to be a professional mixed martial artist right now. She looked like it in the fight. She looked like someone who had never been in the octagon before. She had her traditional Rousey stare down, looked really intimidating, really prepared and ready. But she honestly just wasn't. And Nunes absolutely beat her to smithereens. I feel kind of bad for her because Rousey came out of this fight just lasting 48 seconds with $3 million. Nunes got $100,000 and then another $100,000 because she won. So she walks out with $200,000, destroying Rousey in 48 seconds, who earned $3 million. So I feel kind of bad for her in that regards, but she honestly got the last laugh. After she knocked her out, she sort of did the shh to the crowd. I mean, she trolled her on Twitter with her little picture of her in a stroller, pushing her around. I mean, she literally beat her to smithereens. Rousey didn't even look like she was ready to fight, wasn't defending herself, just taking punch after punch after punch to the face. I give her credit. She didn't even fall down. She didn't even get knocked down in that regard. But, I mean, I really do think this is the end of Ronda Rousey. She did say, after the fight that she is still contemplating what she needs to do. She needs to sort of take some thought into consideration. I just don't think she's ready to fight. I think she's done. I think she now just maybe goes into making movies. Maybe she makes an appearance on WWE every now and then, maybe like WrestleMania, but her career in the octagon, I really do think it's over. I just don't think she's in the right mindset. Having lost to Holly Holm as bad as she did, I think it kind of threw her for a loop. And now she has this one to Nunes, which is just as bad of a loss. I just think we've seen the last of her. The other couple of big fights on UFC 207 is Cody Garbrandt is the new bantamweight champion. He defeats the old champion, Dominic Cruz, by unanimous decision. TJ Dillashaw defeats John Lineker by unanimous decision as well. That is in that same bantamweight division. So now you have the new champion, Garbrandt, probably going to be facing Dillashaw in his first title defense. Who knows when that'll be, but I have to imagine that will be next, unless they give Dominic Cruz a rematch first. This was only Cruz's second professional loss as a fighter, so I mean he's still boasting a pretty good record at 22-2. Garbrandt remains undefeated, and then Dillashaw over Lineker. That was basically the number one contenders fight, so maybe Dillashaw will get next up for that. So now we're moving over into the NFL landscape. As I said yesterday, not too many games with real playoff implications. In the most part, except for the NFC, everything was already wrapped up. The AFC was wrapped up except for playoff seedings. So I'll jump into some of these games really quickly. We'll just do a scoring sort of outlook for all the teams. The Bengals win 27-10 over the Ravens. Houston loses 24-17 against Tennessee. Tom Savage has to leave the game with a concussion. Brock Osweiler comes in, doesn't do too bad, 256, a couple of touchdowns. One of them was on the ground. But now you have sort of another quarterback controversy. What do the Houston Texans do at starting quarterback for their playoff game next week? They'll be playing the Oakland Raiders. The Raiders have some quarterback problems themselves. I'll get to that in a minute. But so now, if Tom Savage is healthy, I got to imagine he's going to stay there under center. But Osweiler did play good yesterday, so now Bill O'Brien has to decide what he really wants to do. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeat the Carolina Panthers 17-16. The Colts get a touchdown from Andrew Luck to Jack Doyle with 9 seconds left to defeat the Jaguars 24-20. New England continues to do New England things. They wrap up top seed in the AFC 14-2, 35-14 over Miami. Big day from Tom Brady, 3 touchdowns. Minnesota with a 38-10 victory over the Bears. The Jets win 30-10 over Buffalo. E.J. Manuel got the start, and he played absolutely terrible. The Philadelphia Eagles defeat the Dallas Cowboys 27-13. Talk about that in a minute. So the first action from Tony Romo actually didn't do too bad. Threw himself a touchdown pass as well. The Pittsburgh Steelers defeat the Cleveland Browns in overtime 27-24. So the Browns are now on the clock. They will have the number 1 overall pick in the 2017 NFL Draft. The Atlanta Falcons defeat the New Orleans Saints 38-32. Big day, over 900 yards of total offense by both teams. The Washington Redskins lay a clunker. They win and they're in, and they lose to the Giants 19-10 at home. We'll talk about that game briefly. The Arizona Cardinals, a monstrous win 44-6 over the LA Rams. David Johnson did leave the game with a knee injury, but it looks like he will be okay, at least for the time being. It's not anything serious, so the start of next year he should be fine. The Denver Broncos defeat the Oakland Raiders 24-6. Talk about that a little later. Kansas City Chiefs wrap up the AFC West in the number 2 overall seed with a 37-27 victory over the San Diego Chargers. The Seattle Seahawks defeat the San Francisco 49ers 25-23. And the nightcap, the battle for the NFC North, the Green Bay Packers defeat the Detroit Lions 31-24. The Packers were 4-6 at one point during the regular season. Aaron Rodgers said, we're going to run the table and win every game since then. And that's exactly what the Packers have done. They win the NFC North 10-6. Rodgers 300 yards and 4 touchdowns last night. A couple of them to Devontae Adams as well as 31 yards. The Detroit Lions kind of fell out of it, got a touchdown late. Stafford threw for 347 yards and 2 touchdowns. Did throw 1 interception. Zach Zenner, a good day on the ground, 20 carries for 69 yards and a touchdown. The Green Bay Packers are absolutely on fire, and they are scary right now. Winners of 6 in a row, winners of the NFC North. They will be hosting the New York Giants in the first round of the playoffs next week. So talk about some of these other games, how they got to there. The Chiefs, as I mentioned, they did defeat the San Diego Chargers 37-27. With the Chiefs win and the Raiders loss, they are now the number 2 seed in the AFC, and they do win the AFC West. Alex Smith threw for 264 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill didn't do much on the ground, 3 carries for 15 yards, but he did have a kickoff return that he took all the way to the house for a touchdown, 95 yards. 12 total touchdowns this year for Tyreek Hill. That's a rookie record for the Chiefs. Sharkhandrick West, 2 touchdown receptions as well as a touchdown, not a touchdown on the ground, but 58 yards on the ground and 2 touchdown catches for 58 yards. So 58 rushing, 58 receiving, and 2 scores for Sharkhandrick West. A good day there. Didn't do much in the passing game was Travis Kelce, just 1 catch for 8 yards, but still he's a top target. They'll have him in a couple of weeks to get him ready. So Kansas City with the nice win. Chargers, they end up firing Mike McCoy. I think all of us saw this coming. Mike McCoy, a solid coach. Did good things with them the first year. Sort of dropped off since then. I think he's still a good coordinator, especially an offensive guy. I think he'll get an offensive coordinator job. We'll have to wait and see what happens next year, though. The Denver Broncos 24-6 over the Oakland Raiders. So the Raiders end up losing their shot at the number 2 overall seed in that first round bye. And to me, that's absolutely huge. So they could have gotten Matt McGloin more action with the team, more reps, more practice, more game preparation for their playoffs. But that's not the case, and we don't even know if Matt McGloin is even going to be able to play next week. Matt McGloin leaves the game with a shoulder injury. He gets replaced by Connor Cook. Connor Cook, first ever time even being active was yesterday, and he's thrown into the game against a top defense like Denver. He didn't do too bad. 14 of 21, 150 yards, 1 touchdown, as well as an interception. Raiders offense just absolutely looked terrible. Did not like the same team without Derek Carr. Trevor Siemian did get the start for Denver. I thought it was going to be Paxton Lynch, but Siemian gets the start. 206, 2 touchdowns, as well as 1 interception. Devontae Booker, pretty good day on the ground, as well as Justin Forsett. 90 yards for Forsett and 57 for Booker. So Denver finally got their running game going, but it was a little too late. They end up 9-7 this year, out of the playoffs. The Raiders will now be taking on the Houston Texans in the first round of the playoffs next week. So we could be looking at Tom Savage or Brock Osweiler against Connor Cook or Matt McGloin in a playoff game. I feel kind of bad for Oakland. I mean, in this game, it's kind of, I hate to put it this way, but it's kind of unfortunate that one of these two teams has to win with how they're playing right now. If Oakland had Derek Carr, I'd say something a little different, but they obviously don't have him. So it's, like I said, it's kind of unfortunate that one of these two teams has to win this game because both these teams really just in bad situations. Look at the AFC playoffs. Some of the quarterbacks that are in there. Obviously, Tom Brady and Big Ben. Sounds pretty good, right? Then you have Alex Smith. It sounds okay. And then you have Tom Savage, Connor Cook, and Matt Moore. I mean, that just does not really bode well for me. But anyways, Oakland losing, only put up 6 points on offense. We'll preview the playoff games on Friday, but I don't really see them going anywhere. So some of the other games, the Redskins, like I said, they bottled their chance at getting into the playoffs. A win, and they would have been in. That is, unless Detroit and Green Bay tie, which was not the case. So the Redskins, all they had to do was win against the Giants at home in Week 17, and they were in the playoffs. And, well, what do? They lose 19-10. Kirk Cousins, 287 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. He threw the game-clinching interception with a minute left as they tried to sort of get up and win that game there. The Giants ended up playing their starters the whole game. Eli Manning, 180 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Paul Perkins, a good day on the ground, 102 yards. Rashad Jennings chipped in with 52 as well and a touchdown. So the Giants ended up running for 161 yards. Odell Beckham and Josh Norman got a little interesting there. A couple of incidents where they got together, a couple of personal foul penalties on them. But the Redskins they had their shot, almost like the Jets did last year, and they miss out on the playoffs. A bad result there. The Giants, as I said, will be on the road to take on Green Bay. I feel kind of bad that both of these teams are having to play each other because I think they're the two teams that have the best shot of dethroning Dallas to get to the Super Bowl, and they have to play each other, so one of them is going to be out this week. Giants' defense is quickly becoming elite. They have, obviously, a huge difference maker in Odell Beckham. It's going to come down to, can Eli Manning replicate what he's done in the playoffs? And really against the Packers, both times they've been in the playoffs and won the Super Bowl, they have gone into Lambeau Field and won against Green Bay. Can he replicate his success the last 2 times he's been there in the postseason? Or is he going to be Eli Manning that we've seen this year, kind of making mistakes late and losing games for the Giants? It'll be really interesting to see. And then the last game I'll talk about briefly before we look at the playoff matchups for the postseason is the Dallas Cowboys did lose to the Philadelphia Eagles 27-13, but we did see action from Tony Romo. Played pretty good. 3 of 4, 29 yards, 1 touchdown to Terrence Williams. Dak Prescott got the start, 4 of 8 for 37 yards. Ezekiel Elliott didn't play, although he did get dressed up. And then Mark Sanchez comes in 9 of 17 for 85 yards and 2 interceptions. Just typical Mark Sanchez game. Carson Wentz played pretty good, 245 and 2 touchdowns. A huge day receiving from his tight end, Zach Ertz. 13 catches, 139 yards, and both of those touchdowns from Wentz. So Carson Wentz, pretty good rookie year. I mean, not too bad. Going to be a guy who's going to progress really well under Doug Peterson in my eyes. So happy to see him there. The story, though, Tony Romo played really good. If Dak Prescott, anything were to happen to him in the postseason, I think they're in good hands with Romo. That is, if he can stay healthy, of course, and not get hit. He did not get hit yesterday, which is important. A lot of quick throws, a lot of handoffs. So trying to keep him healthy. And then obviously they will be looking to trade him. So, I mean, we'll have to see what happens, though, with Tony Romo and maybe Dak Prescott in the postseason. So now you look at the postseason matchups for next week for the wild card round. Obviously, in the NFC, Dallas and Atlanta are on bye weeks. So they will not be playing. The number 3 seed is the Seattle Seahawks. They will be taking on the Detroit Lions. And then the 4 seed, the Packers, will be taking on the New York Giants. And then you look at the AFC side, the number 1 seed is New England. Kansas City is number 2, so they are both on bye weeks. Number 3 seed is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They will take on the Miami Dolphins. And then the number 4 seed is the Houston Texans. They will take on the Oakland Raiders. We'll preview those games on Friday, so I'll save it for there. But the NFL is now over. Like I said, head coaches that have been fired. Mike McCoy is out in San Diego. Chip Kelly, as well as Trent Baalke, the general manager, are out in San Francisco to go along with the coaching vacancies we already had in L.A., in Buffalo, as well as Jacksonville. And then Gary Kubiak does step down as head coach of the Denver Broncos for health-related concerns and issues. So that's technically another coaching job, although it is not a fireable job. So we will talk, really, if there's any more that break within the next 15, 20 minutes we're doing the show, I will be quick to report, but I really don't expect so. Maybe we'll have some later in the day. But anyways, my big takeaways from the coachings, I'm not really surprised Mike McCoy got fired. He's the only one besides Chip Kelly that we've seen so far that has not happened in the past week. Chip Kelly, I'm a little surprised he did get fired, but when you decide to let go of the general manager, it's only right that you let go of the coach as well, because a new general manager is going to want to bring in his own coach. He's going to want to have his own guy there. If you're an owner and you bring in a new GM and say, okay, you're going to be my GM and this is going to be your guy whether you like it or not, are you going to be really happy about that? Personally, I wouldn't. So it makes sense why Jed York and company did let go of Chip Kelly as well as Trent Baalke, because a new GM is going to want to bring in his own guy. The Niners now will be on their fourth head coach in 4 years. The Niners will be paying coaching fees and general manager fees of $30 million next year. This is the back-to-back years. The Niners have fired a coach after 1 year. Jim Tomsula had 1 year. This year, Chip Kelly goes 2-14, has just 1 year. Chip Kelly's still getting paid by Philadelphia. He's still getting paid by San Francisco to do absolutely nothing. So he's looking pretty right now. I think Chip Kelly probably takes a year off. Maybe he does some analyst stuff, some broadcasting stuff, and then he goes back to college next year when a top position opens up. Possibly Notre Dame if they let go of Brian Kelly if he has another bad year. Chip Kelly's still getting paid to do nothing. There's no real big-time head coaching jobs in college. I don't see another franchise in the NFL giving him a shot as a head coach. So I think he probably takes a year off, goes back to college next year, and just absolutely lights it up like he did at Oregon. But we'll have to wait and see. So, guys, we'll take our last break of the show. After the break, just going to be talking some trending stories about this weekend, some basketball news, as well as other things right here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
How about the New Year's Eve that James Harden and the Rockets had against the Knicks? The Rockets defeat the Knicks 129 to 122 on Saturday. James Harden, absolute huge game. Probably in my eyes the best performance of any player we have seen so far this year in the National Basketball Association. Harden finishes with 53 points, 17 assists, and 16 rebounds for the triple-double. He did have 8 turnovers, which is definitely not a good thing to have. But still, 17 assists, so he's still looking at a 2-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio in this game. He shot 14 of 26. He hit 9 three-pointers, 9 of 16. He took 16 threes. No other person on the team took more than 19 shots alone, and that was Eric Gordon. He took 15 threes. So between the two of them, they took 31 threes. They ended up making 14 of them, which is a pretty good percentage. So James Harden, 53 points, 17 assists, 16 rebounds. The Rockets are 26-9, just absolutely lighting it up under this new Mike D'Antoni offense. It's working wonders for them, at least so far in the regular season. I think they're probably maybe the third best team in the West. I don't know if they're a real shot to challenge, but they can score with the best of them, and who knows, that could make a difference. Other news in basketball, reports are that the Atlanta Hawks are fielding trade offers for forward Paul Millsap and spot shooter Kyle Korver. They're listening to offers. I mean, they're not really sure what they're looking for. He is 31, is Paul Millsap. They're also looking to maybe shop in Kyle Korver, as I mentioned, and Thabo Cephalosha. They do have Dwight Howard, who they brought in to really fill in that Al Horford role after he left to Boston. But the Hawks really aren't doing too well. They're 17-16 this year. Sort of their postseason success the last couple of years has not really worked out so far this year, so they might be looking to move some of their top players. Paul Millsap's worth a lot of money. He's valued at about $21.5 million in his contract. So obviously in the NBA, you have to trade at least 90% of the contract. So you have to trade a lot of players that are on salary with a lot of money to get something back in regards to Millsap, because you have to trade contract for contract. So interesting to see what happens. The sources are that the Raptors are interested in Millsap's services. So interesting to see if he ends up going there or not. Could be another solid addition to Toronto, who are probably the second best team in the East, but are just getting destroyed still by Cleveland. So they might be like one of those like big fish in a small pond things where they're good against everyone except for against the Cavs. But who knows? Maybe if they get Millsap, that'll be good. They can add some rebounding to themselves as well and just really make a difference. And then really quickly before I end the show, Alshon Jeffrey making some news yesterday. Obviously, the Bears lose bad. They lose bad to Minnesota, 38-10. They finished 3-13 on the season. Alshon Jeffrey asked about the game, like how his sort of year reflects. I mean, he missed 7 games this year, 3 of them through injury, 4 via suspension. So sort of a reflection on the year, everything he said. He goes, quote, "I guarantee we are going to win the Super Bowl next year." I'm not sure if Alshon Jeffrey is maybe talking about his next team he's going to be on, because he will be a free agent in March. Who knows if the Bears are going to bring Jeffrey back. He's been a good player for them when he's been healthy, and that's the big thing here, because he's never been healthy. He's missed time every single year. He had a 4-game suspension this year with the PEDs. He says, quote, "I guarantee you we are going to win the Super Bowl next year." Maybe he's talking about New England, who might bring him in, or the Packers, or the Chiefs, or the Steelers. I'm not sure if he's saying about the Bears, because if he honestly believes he's going to re-sign with the Bears and they're going to win the Super Bowl next year, he's crazy. Obviously, he's not going to go in there and say, "Oh, we suck. You know, I'm glad I'm going to get out of here. March can't come any sooner. That way I can go to a contender and get out of Chicago." He's not going to say that. But still, I mean, those are some pretty bold predictions there, Alshon. And he didn't say the Bears. I said, "I guarantee you we are going to win the Super Bowl next year." Didn't imply where he's going. So who knows? Maybe he'll be right. Maybe he's not talking about Chicago. Maybe he's talking about someone else. But who knows? Anyways, guys, that is going to conclude our show for today. I hope you enjoyed listening. My name is Ben Brown. I will be back on Wednesday with Anthony. Not going to be in the studio yet. Not going to be in the studio tomorrow. So unfortunately, I do apologize about that. But I do have other things I need to be doing. So I will be taking a break until Wednesday, until Anthony and I will be back in the studio talking a lot of great things. Probably recap the next couple of days in sports. Talk about maybe some of these BCS bowl games coming up today, the Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, as well as anything else. I'm sure we'll have some coaching firings in the NFL later today. So we'll have to wait and see. But anyways, guys, that is it. I'm signing off. Once again, Happy New Year. 2017 is here. And I will see you guys on Wednesday. Goodbye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.